Happy New Year to everybody. America's Heroes Group Roundtable. She serves, she matters with She Voices Coalition partner, Sister Soldier, She Vet Inspire. Absolutely. We are so pleased to have on our live line Sister Soldier. How are you?
Hey there, I'm
How
doing
you
well. And
doing?
yourself?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing
It is so
wonderful.
good. It's so good to hear your voice. This is great. And also we have Jennifer Foxworthy with us as a guest, retired Navy air crewman and a post-domestic violence survivor and victims advocate. And how are you, Miss Foxworthy?
Good evening, Mr. Kelly, and good evening, Sister Soldier. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today.
It's so great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's great to be with you.
absolutely, absolutely. In case somebody didn't hear me, America's Heroes Group Roundtable, She Serves, She Matters with the She Voices Coalition partners, Sister Soldier, She Vet, and Inspire. I want to wish both of you lovely ladies and, of course, all of our listeners a very, very happy New Year. All right?
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's start off. We got a lot to talk about here with the women that are doing some great work in the military, and everybody certainly knows that. But Jennifer, one of the things wanted to mention is a situation with the circumstances that you had to go through with all of the things that you did, although you were a great Navy air crewman and so forth, did what you should have done. Tell us, give us a little background about your situation on human trafficking.
While I was in the service, I experienced domestic violence. It was service member on service member. And now that I'm out, I'm an advocate of domestic violence, but how I got into human trafficking is because of one of my platforms, the Unstoppable You Conference. And we try to find law enforcement, FBI agents, special victims agents that can provide information and empower my audience on what human trafficking is. So I'm a domestic violence survivor.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's not uncommon for many victims to experience domestic violence, human trafficking, and homelessness. So those are the three causes that my nonprofit that we support.
Say those three again.
Domestic violence, human trafficking, and homelessness. It's not uncommon for victims to experience all three horrible epidemics.
We were just talking about homelessness with military personnel and our previous gentleman who's just great. This is a number of things here. You are a retired Navy air crewman, but you knocked down stereotypes and dealt with discrimination as you became, I believe, the first African American female air crewman, the first African American air crewman in the enlisted ranks, and the first female in flight technician during your squadron tours. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Kelly. My three Navy squadrons that I was attached to during a 15-year period where I was a naval air crewman, I quickly found out that I was rare. And so while I was trying to fit in where I clearly stood out, whether as an African American or as a woman, it created challenges. Change is hard to come by for some people.
And you served, I believe, in Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq.
Yes, sir. I flew combat missions.
Wow.
I earned over 4 air medals. So, yes, flew 3,700 flight hours. But, yes, I served in all 3 wars.
Wow. Now, anybody like you ought to be on our show, and we're so pleased. And congratulations on your service. You know how I feel about that.
Amen.
Yeah. But tell us what happened. What do you need us to know?
Well, for January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and I'm grateful actually for this interview for today, because today, January 11th, is National Human Traffic Awareness Day. Human trafficking, the ribbon is blue, so there's a campaign going on throughout this month, but especially today, to bring awareness to this international nightmare that affects so many people. Matter of fact, it affects over 25 million victims globally.
Wow. And today is the day. January is the month, but today is the day.
The National Human Trafficking Awareness Day.
Right.
That is correct.
And what, first, the great things that you've been able to accomplish, notwithstanding these problems, Ms. Foxworthy, what else is being done?
Well, I wanted to let people know, many people, they don't understand that they could help save lives by just being vigilant, especially, so say if I provided service in a home, like repairing televisions or satellites or computers. There's labor trafficking, and there's also sex trafficking. So the quick definition of human trafficking is the action or practice of illegally transporting people from one country or area to another, typically for purpose of forced labor or sexual exploitation. So if a service provider is vigilant and they see someone who looks distressed, mistreated, it's possible that they are a labor traffic victim. And then for sex traffic victims, the average age is between 12 and 20 years old.
Wow.
And it's the most vulnerable people are those who are in and out of juvenile systems, who age out of foster care, who grow up in dysfunctional, abusive environments. They end up homeless, and they are the most vulnerable because they're looking for love and acceptance.
Sure.
And unfortunately, these trackers, they prey on that need of love and acceptance.
When you were the flight technician and doing such a great job, would there have been a difference, Ms. Foxworthy, if you had not been of color?
Yes, there would have been a difference. It's unfortunate, but there is a thing called white privilege. And although women, we are on the outside of that privilege wheel, but when you're an African American and then a woman, now you got two strikes against you. Things that are external that I chose not to change or couldn't change. And yes, that posed challenges, barriers of how my colleagues treated and accepted me.
Now, were there white women in your squadron also?
There were white women in my squadron, but there weren't many that were air crew.
I got you. Air crew, yeah, that's the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I flew in the actual airplane, and many times I was the only female, and many times I was the only African American. So you can imagine flying over Middle Eastern countries. I was always prepared that if our plane went down behind enemy lines, I knew I would get tortured, used for propaganda.
Just by being a woman. Yeah.
Exactly.
In those
just
places.
By being a woman. Exactly. Yep. And then also being a minority, because then they would see me as a traitor.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. We're so pleased to have on our live line wonderful lady Jennifer Foxworthy. And we got to go to our usual. We just love Sister Soldier. How are you today?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
Okay, Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Yeah, and of course, Sister Soldier is the president and CEO of Shevet, and tell us, this is a heck of a thing that our guest is talking about, isn't it, Jennifer?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at human trafficking, I wasn't as much aware as I am now, thanks to Jennifer and her organization, to the necessity and the need for awareness. It's really a growing topic in the United States and around the world, actually. And so we really have to begin to be aware, and it's important for us to establish awareness and not fear. So I thought it was important for her to come on and share what are some of the things we need to look out for, and how we can help.
I think you're totally correct on that, and I'm just glad, Sister Soldier, that you had her come on. This is just something that we know exists, but not to the degree that it does. When somebody can come as Miss Foxworthy and do what she's doing, what she has done, there shouldn't be any difference at all of her ability to serve her country.
Yeah. And actually, Jennifer is she's a historian, because she made history by her acts of service, being a flight, and an aviator. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah,
she tore down a lot of walls for women who are now entering that particular field.
I love what is your favorite quote as reported, Jennifer. It says, quote, "I use my voice to help others find theirs," end quote.
Amen. Yes.
I like that, yeah.
I have a very big mouth, and God has blessed me with that, and I'm using it in a positive way to bring to light what the Satan, tries to hold in the darkness, which is domestic violence, which is human trafficking, and to let people know that they don't have to hide in guilt and shame, that they can heal, that they can overcome, and that they can move forward, most importantly.
That is so important that people will do that, Jennifer. That's I like that. That's why I mentioned it. And of course, you know what Sister Soldier does for us all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, she's just great. Sister Soldier, add to that. What else do we need to know?
Well, it's like Jennifer said. If we see something, say something. And I just want to add that if we recognize someone who looks distressed and who look like they may be held captive, that we notify the authorities. Don't try to take it in our own hands, because we don't know what the trafficker has that they are holding that person hostage with. But it's important to be aware and not be in fear, and just be cognizant and talk to our children about it. And trafficking is not just for children, but it's for adults. It's happening all over, and we just have to be aware and start preparing ahead of time.
I agree. Our call-in number is 312-374-8130, 312-374-8130. Two unbelievable, great women with us on America's Heroes Group, Sister Soldier, of course, and Jennifer Foxworthy. And I'm so happy that she had her come on, because this woman is a hero also, retired Navy Aircrewman, and a post-domestic violence survivor and victims advocate. She's doing just a great job. What do we see, Jennifer, based on what you have done? Do we see anything changing?
I think so. It's slowly but surely. Women, we just have to be confident and courageous in the fields that we choose, and it's our integrity that will carry us forward.
Mm-hmm.
When when we're attacked or demeaned because of our gender and our skin color,
Mm-hmm.
all we have is our character. All we have is our integrity, and it means a lot. Mr. Kelly, on the grounds of human trafficking, I want to educate your listeners just a little bit how this horrific epidemic takes place.
Mm-hmm.
According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, human trafficking is the business of stealing freedom for profit. In some cases, traffickers trick, defraud, or physically force victims into providing commercial sex. In others, victims are lied to, assaulted, threatened, manipulated into working under inhumane, illegal, or otherwise unacceptable conditions. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry,
Mm-hmm.
and many people may not realize that, say if they're into pornography, many of your sex trafficking victims, that's how they're used. So many people think, well, I'm not hurting anybody, but they are actually fueling the human trafficking industry.
Mm-hmm.
And anywhere that you have multiple modes of transportation is a hotbed. If I live in southern Maryland, and just in the DMV area alone, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, you have 3 airports, BWI, Ronald Reagan, and Dulles. You have the corridor I-95 that goes from Maine all the way down to Florida. You have other intersections. You have your waterways. So if someone wants to come from Delaware all across to Maryland by boat. So human trafficking is very tricky to spot
Mm-hmm.
because of that human being can be disguised as a relative or a friend. Unlike drugs, a police can visually see the drugs or feel for it, or sniffing, the canine sniffing around can find those drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And why human trafficking is so lucrative is because a human being, unfortunately, is a never-ending supply. It's not uncommon for a victim to have up to 34 Johns a day.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Whew. That is, well, I'm just glad you're on top of this to let people know about it, because the more people, obviously, Jennifer, who know, and I commend you, and of course, Sister Soldier, the more people that know about it, the sooner it's going to be reduced to the fact that so many people won't be subject there too. And again, I just want to congratulate you, Jennifer Foxworthy. I'm sure we'll have you on again. Sister Soldier, thank you so much for bringing on this wonderful lady. And of course, you know what we think of your organization and the kind of things that you do and continue to do, and we love you for it. So
love you right back.
Absolutely, sweetheart. Just keep it up to both of you. We'll be talking again real soon, and thank you both. All right. And have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Boy, that's really something when you think about that. The whole situation with this sort of, this lady, it's a great job. And of course, we know about Sister Soldier, but notwithstanding the fact that it continues, and the more that we expose it, as we do here on America's Heroes Group, the sooner this sort of thing is going to stop. And that's what needs to be done. That's why we always ask you to participate and to make sure that you know what's going on, because a lot of this is happening, and a lot of folks that would prevent it don't know it's happening. Ignorance is the poor excuse, but that's what happens, and that's why we want you to listen to America's Heroes Group, so we can have very intelligent people who can come on and give us that kind of information. Stay with us. We'll be back.